Welcome to Navigating the Nervous System. My name is Kristen Cronin Boone, licensed therapist, professor, and writer. Do you ever wonder why you do the things you do? The answer might just be your nervous system. Come with me as we explore this incredible system and how it drives your thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Let's navigate the nervous system together. Welcome to Navigating the Nervous System, Episode 1, Nervous System 101. We're going to start with the basics today as to what it is and why it's important. Our brain and our nervous system are at work all day long. And you're like, I know that. They, makes our heart beat. It, makes my lungs breathe. It's taking care of all of that stuff. My brain's telling my body and everything what to do. But the piece we probably don't think about as much is it's also guiding your behavior. Every bit of your behavior is guided by your nervous system. So this is really important because if you want to have good relationships, if you want to feel good about yourself, if you want to do well at work or have, model good behavior to your children, knowing what your nervous system is doing and why you are doing the things you are doing is really a key. Doing therapy for a very long time, I found that something was always kind of missing for me. And then I had a supervisor hand me the book Whole Brain Child by Dr. Dan Siegel. And while this started with working with a child client, I just expanded from there. I was so impacted by the idea in this book of how the different parts of the brain really guide our behaviors and our beliefs. And when it really comes down to it, our survival. Because we might think of our brains, our human, wonderful, smart, bulbous frontal lobes here giving us like really great ideas and innovations. But at the end of the day, our brain is wired for survival. That is its number one job. And so when the survival part of our brain, Dr. Dan Siegel calls it the downstairs brain, the survival part, finds something is threatening, it hijacks that frontal lobe or the upstairs brain. And you no longer can think with your human, complex, innovative, empathetic brain. You just can't because your body, your brain, your nervous system will prioritize survival every time. And it will always win in a race against your upstairs brain. So if that's the case, if our downstairs brain always wins in these situations, then it is so important, and this is the key I feel like a lot of people are missing in self-help and the way that they move through the world, is we're not taught about this entire part of our body and our brain that is constantly at work and constantly guiding what we do. And that's what I want to let you know about because everybody deserves to know this information. So let's get started. So the way I explain it to my clients is that we have our prefrontal cortex, our big round frontal lobe here. And if you even think about it, cave people back in the day, if you go back and look, they kind of had this sloped forehead. They didn't have as much of this. And over time, we developed more complex thought to be part of our survival as opposed to just being stronger, and there's a whole evolutionary piece to this. But for right now, you just need to know that we've grown this wonderful frontal lobe, but at the end of the day, the rest of our brain is still pretty similar to what it was, and it still prioritizes our survival. So what happens is, in our brain, on either side, there's little almond-sized clusters called the amygdala. I call her Miss Amygdala because I want you to be in relationship with her. We can't control her, but we can be in relationship with her and start to understand what sets her off. Because what she does for us all day long, and not just when we're in a crisis, which is when I think we're more aware of our fight or flight system, which is what she's in charge of, but all day long, she's scanning our environment for something that's safe or not safe. If things are safe, then she allows our brain to stay integrated. It allows us to continue doing what we were doing. She's like, everything's good here. Go ahead. Keep working. Solve that problem. Eat some pizza. Everything's working well. Our brain, our body, keep it moving. But if she senses a threat, she starts to steal energy from that frontal lobe and put it towards survival, making our heart rate go faster, getting our muscles to tense, preparing us to either fight or run away. And even though we think of this fight or flight probably in terms of like a physical, immediate, or traumatic danger, this is happening all day long. You know, you get stressed by even your children or someone at work and your heart rate starts going up. It's because those children, that boss or peer at work is actually looking like a threat to Miss Amygdala. Now, your frontal lobes knows there's not really a threat, but your body doesn't. And not understanding this puts us in a situation to start to act like cave people. I'll say to my couple clients, when you're in your downstairs brain, when you get triggered into fight or flight, you start thinking like a cave person, you're not going to be able to solve the problem between the two of you because basically every thought turns into hit person with stick. And metaphorically, right? Not actually hitting, but like we get on the defensive. We want to go after people because we're protecting ourselves. So in order to be aware of being in protective mode, we need to understand what's happening and where it comes from. Okay? So what I like to say is in the past, we've fought tigers, right? We would like have to fight off the tiger or run away from the tiger. We don't generally have big tigers anymore. But what we do have are tiny tigers all day long. People are late to work. They feel like they're going to get in trouble. That's a tiny tiger. Your partner forgot to pick up the dry cleaning. Tiny tiger. Your kids are driving you crazy at dinner time. Tiny tiger. And throughout the day, we get more and more and more stress hormones that put Miss Amygdala ready to protect us and gets us even closer to acting out in a way that we would act towards a tiger. And in order to keep us from treating the people around us like a threat, we have to be able to understand when this is happening and how to move through it, how to navigate it. So there's another theory called polyvagal theory. Don't have to worry about remembering all the words. But ultimately, what it says is that at any given time, we could be in 3 different nervous system states. And we kind of do move through them. It's a ladder or hierarchy, if you will. But for you, very simple, we're just going to remember that at any given time, we're going to be in safe, stress, or shutdown. Shutdown is kind of that freeze. People often say fight, flight, or freeze, but really freeze is kind of in its own category because what it does is it kind of is when we've shut down completely. And there can be real physical versions of this, like when we go into shock, or there can be social versions of this. We're just like, I've never met someone that's just not present, like they're there, but they're not there. They're not interacting. They're just like kind of slumped down and even their body shows it. That would be our shutdown or our freeze mode. But for right now, we're just going to remember safe, stress, and shutdown. And I'm going to explain to you what this looks like, both in a crisis situation that you would probably more think of fight or flight and things like that in. And then we're going to talk about where we see this in the real world and how they connect. Okay? So let's imagine you're driving in a car, all right, with your friend, and it's somewhere you go every day. So like there's no real panic. So Miss Amygdala is just paying attention because you're driving, but she's like, it's all safe. It's the same place we go every day. All right, driving down the road. And all of a sudden a deer runs in front of the car. Now, before you have even really like thought about what's happened, your foot slams on the brake, right? Your body tightens and the car stops. Maybe the airbags go off even if you've stopped hard enough. But let's assume you don't hit the deer, okay? It scampers off. What happens? Your body is tight. Your friend's body is tight. You both probably stopped talking or singing to the song you were singing on. However, you're still able to talk to each other. You're like, oh my God. Oh my gosh. Did you see that? How did that happen? Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, no, I saw it was from over here, I think. Oh my gosh. Or should we move over? You're able still to get into that frontal lobe a little bit and slowly come back and make plans and maybe even start driving again. And you're like, whew, whoa, that was crazy. So you've gone into stress. And when I say it wins in a foot race against that upstairs brain, that safe mode, that's because your foot, your body, it had gotten input and seen that in its peripheral and knew that you were going to get hurt. So no longer was it prioritizing the complex, conversation you were having with your friend. It was keeping you alive. And so you didn't even realize your foot went there and stuff like that. It was doing it for you. You are wired to protect yourself, and it did it for you. And it's almost later that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did a good job swerving or whatever, because you didn't plan it. It wasn't a planning thing. Now, your frontal lobe's involved, but only in terms of supporting that survival mode. So that's stress, okay? That's moving from stress back to safe, and throughout the day, you'll probably talk about it to help emotionally digest it. But you're fine, right? Now, let's assume the same thing's happening. You're driving along, deer comes out, slam on the brakes, but you do hit it this time. Airbags go off. And then what's the next thing that happens? Sometimes could be that someone's suddenly knocking on your door. You're like, how did someone get knocking on my door? And the reason that is because your body actually kind of shut down. And even your memory center was not really going to store information. That was not the priority. You had a strong impact, and all the resources went down into shutdown mode so that everything could go towards keeping you alive. And so you might even just not know what to say and look around and look at your, not be able to get words out, because those parts of your brain in your frontal lobe, they are not priority. And the thing is, it takes a lot longer to get from shutdown all the way back into safe mode than it does just from your amygdala up to your frontal lobe. So think of when you shut down, we're using more of this really lower brain, autonomic brainstem, just that part of the brain. Okay, again, it's very simplistic, but it's easy to think about it that way. When we're safe, we're all integrated and we can do all these things at once. When we're stressed, we lose a little bit of the complex thought. We can still utilize it, but only for the survival mode. We stressed, we can get through it, we move on, and we can kind of get back into our complex thought. But then, if something bigger happens or more traumatic happens, we go all the way down and only really keep that autonomic system until our body is sure that we are going to survive. Okay. And then there's also these physical pieces that go with each of these I want to talk about, and then we'll talk about how it applies in your real life. So in safe mode, we're relaxed. Okay. We're not defensive. Our heart rate can be calm. We can connect with others because we feel safe with the people we're with. And our body is relaxed. It's open, right? Our body language. This is how, if you ever hear about body language experts, they're watching different things because it's telling them which kind of nervous system states they're in. And if you're lying, you might be in a different nerve. You might be in more of a stress and hypervigilance nervous system state than relaxed and open and trusting and connecting with others. When we're in stress, often, or getting ready to fight or flight, we are tight. We are, our faces, our bodies, everything's a little more protective. We might lean forward and tuck our stomach back. Have you ever been mad at someone, they cross their arms? Why is that? It's because we're protecting our internal organs, right? Because back in the day, if you're fighting a tiger, this is what killed you, right? Not your finger, right? And so we still do that, even if it's just a social threat. And then finally, what your body looks like when you've shut down can look kind of stiff or collapsed. You might have seen this when someone gets really terrible news, so maybe a loved one has passed away. Sometimes they'll collapse to the floor. And so the body can look that way. Or in the case of my story where we froze, you might see people and they're frozen, but their head is down. They're just not there. They're just kind of stuck in, literal freeze. Their body is frozen for a minute. Okay. So the reason I wanted to go through all that is that's a very distinct kind of traumatic example, a car accident. And you can see where the 3 different body languages are. Now, I want you to realize you can look all around you all day long and see these 3 nervous system states. You can see people having a great time with their friends, walking down the street, laughing, throwing their arms around in the air. You can see a couple walking together in stress mode. And you can see maybe a teenager or someone by themselves just kind of walking along like this. You can see these body states. And it's so important because if you want to be emotionally intelligent and you want to have good relationships, you want to make good decisions, knowing where other people are simply by attuning to what their movements are and their vibe and which of these nervous system states, you can help them move throughout those. And also, you can do it for yourself. You can be aware of where your body is or how you feel about something simply by becoming in tune with both the inside and outside of your body. And then going, oh, wow, I notice when you cross your arms, when you start to talk to someone and you can be like, oh, I'm really defensive right now. I'm not liking what they say. I feel threatened. And oftentimes it's about you. They're not actually threatening you, but you realize that you are feeling threatened, and that's going to change how you respond to them. And so sometimes our bodies are the best way to notice where we're at with something, how we're feeling about something, and whether or not it's a good idea to continue making a decision or connecting with someone. Because let me ask you this, should you be making any important decisions? Should you be having any important conversations when you're in stress or shutdown? No. We can only connect and have complex thought and empathy for other people when we are in our integrated, safe brain. So it's very important to start to learn these things. I'll talk about this throughout almost every episode, this safe stress shutdown mode, because it really is applicable and a really great way to start to categorize your awareness of where you are, where your family members are, where your kids are. It can be very, very helpful. So once we know this, awareness is the first step, okay? Because awareness leads to choice. When we are aware of what nervous system state we are in, it will change the choices that we make in how we respond. And you might be saying, well, you just told me I can't necessarily control my downstairs brain, my stress mode, right? You can't. However, I use the analogy of when in a movie where a character that's like a werewolf is going to turn and say they're like with their girlfriend and then suddenly they start turning. Can they stop the turning? No. But what they do is they have this moment where they're able to kind of be in both places at once. They're turning, but in our version, we would still have some contact with our frontal lobe. And what does the werewolf do? Turns to its girlfriend and goes, run, save yourself. That's what we need to learn to do. We might start to feel our stress response get out of control and not be able to control it, but we can protect the people around us from it by saying, I need to walk away. We need to stop having this conversation. I got to go for a walk. Remove yourself from the situation or ask them to remove themselves from the situation. And you can even do it beforehand. Like, please walk away from me when I get like this. I'm working on it, but I don't want to hurt you. And that's how you can start to work and be self-aware. And the more you do that, the sooner and sooner you can catch it and the less reactive you will be when you turn the tide. All right. So we've talked about safe, stress, and shutdown. We've talked about why is this important? Because I think after talking about all this, you realize that all the good things in life often happen when we're in that safe mode, when we're in our upstairs brain. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk about for the next couple of episodes is how do we work our way back to that safe mode as often as possible. And then also very importantly, when we weren't able to do it or we're not having an easy time getting there, what can we do to support ourselves, to get out of stress mode or to lift us up from shutdown, which is harder to do? And every one of these episodes, I'm going to finish with something that you can do right now to help yourself. So I'm going to give you one exercise you can take with you. And when you notice yourself getting into stress or shut down, notice that body getting tight or kind of like it wants to give up, you can do this exercise to kind of help you balance and get back into your frontal lobe and reintegrate your brain. So for box breathing, we are going to do a count of 4, and you're going to inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And the way it's going to work is we're going to go up for 4, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, inhale for 4, hold for 4, and so on and so on. I'm going to do 3 rounds. You can do 3 rounds. You can do 3 minutes. Always be careful. If you notice you're are feeling more stressed breathing like this, then don't. Everybody's body is different, but for most people, this really kind of helps balance you out. All right, so I'm going to do it with you. If you're just listening along, then 1, if you're driving, be careful. 2, I will count on the holds, but my voice will sound a little quieter and odd because I'll be holding my breath. And I will do that so you can keep going with us and know where we're at. All right, here we go. We're going to do 3 rounds. In through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. In through the nose. Hold. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. In through the nose. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so on. You could continue. So check on yourself. Do you feel like you notice a difference, a little calmer or looser? It's because we're telling our body and our brain and our nervous system that we are safe. So give that a try. I'm also going to challenge you throughout the week to see if you can notice people in these different nervous system states. Someone who's in safe mode, someone who's in stress, someone who's in shutdown. Start to pay attention to these things and notice it in yourself. When are you finding yourself tighter and in stress mode? When are you finding yourself in shutdown? And when do you feel connected and safe? And kind of start to notice those patterns. And when you do feel in stress or shutdown, give that box breathing a try. Thank you so much for joining me on the first episode of Navigating the Nervous System. I will be back. Like and subscribe. Follow the podcast. Also comment. Leave me a note. I'd love to hear what you think or questions you have. Thank you again. I'm Kristen Cronin Boone, and thank you for navigating your nervous system with me.